Hello everyone, this is Abigail Barella with Sparkle and Shine Guidance, and this is your solar eclipse in Capricorn moon oracle. So not only is it a new moon in Capricorn, but it is a powerful solar eclipse. And whenever we have a powerful solar eclipse new moon, we are also going to have a lunar eclipse at the full moon. And so we are in eclipse season. Welcome. We've been here for a little bit, but the energies are definitely amping up. Yesterday I couldn't tell because yesterday was the solstice. What was the solstice energy and what was the eclipse energy? The moon was in Scorpio, so it was pretty intense transformations and opportunities to go deep within. And now we're getting pulled into this bigger, like the energy of the eclipse is very big. And one of the first things I want to talk about is just in general with a solar eclipse, a new moon eclipse. New moons are newness, a new cycle, planting seeds, really having new intentions set. Now, this one's even more powerful because it's a solar eclipse, so even more opportunity to plant your seeds. Every year at the new moon in Capricorn, I feel a deep, deep, deep pull to set really powerful intentions for the year. For me, that is the more important time to sow seeds for the following year. And, you know, a lot of times I'll do like a 5-year plan. But this year is even more powerful for setting those new intentions, bringing in fresh new energy, and of course with that comes clearing out the old. Now, typically a new moon or a solar eclipse is going to be that fresh new energy. However, this solar eclipse is on the south node of the moon, and the south node of the moon deals with our collective and individual karma, our past. And so there's this element of, even though it's about bringing in fresh new energy, it's infusing that new energy into our old karma, our old contracts, our old familial connections, bringing in that fresh new energy to breathe life back into it. And so you might be noticing, one of the main things you might be noticing is our family's addictions to the screens, including ourselves. And so it's such a great time to unplug, to find ways to play with your family again, like play a game with your friends and family, or just go out and put your phone away for a little bit. This is the time where we could really go unconscious like we've done, or we could choose a different way. And this different way really is minor shifts. We think it's going to be big and scary, but it's minor shifts to our thinking and the way we connect to each other. So that all being said, this solar eclipse also is conjunct Jupiter. And so we have this powerful solar eclipse. The sun and the moon are in Capricorn at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So of course you want to look and see if you have anything in Capricorn at 4 degrees, but also any of the cardinal signs, because you're either then getting a square to those planets or an opposition. And those are challenges, but also a great opportunity for growth, right? So definitely look at your chart and see where 4 degrees of Capricorn falls, because you're going to notice something happening there, okay? And that's where you want to kind of be aware of setting new intentions, releasing old ways of being with people and with yourself. And then Jupiter. Jupiter has to do with luck, expansion. It's all about growth. And so how beautiful to have this solar eclipse that's kind of heavy, because Capricorn can be heavy, and having to do with our collective past and our karma, and have this beautiful expansion planet right there giving you luck and opportunities. Like, that's the main thing. Just something to grasp onto so that you can clear all of this karma that's been from your past, from, you know, old relationships, from old friendships, to most importantly, familial connections. Whenever we have a cycle where we have Capricorn and Cancer involved, we're going to be looking at our own personal upbringing, our parents, so our mother and our father, and wounds associated with that. And one of the things I wanted to talk about with that is how we bring those relationships and those wounds from our childhood and from our parenting, whatever parenting we received or didn't receive, most importantly, and we bring those into our relationships. And often we make our current friends and partners suffer because of those wounds that we're not willing to look at. And so this is really also an opportune time to do some reparenting work. I do have a free PDF on that on my website, and also there's tons of other resources that you could look for just doing a quick meditation on reparenting, bringing yourself back up to the present. And this is really important as we move forward and we're sowing these new seeds to be in a new way with our partners, our friendships, and how we're going to relate to each other. Now, also with every solar eclipse we have, there might be beautiful new faces showing up in your life. This is especially true if you've had grief or loss recently, then you're definitely going to see new people, new situations, new opportunities appearing to you. And so be aware of that and don't just close down, isolate at this time. This is a very lucky time for new connections and powerful new ways to see the world and to see yourself. And this is also having to do, because it has to do with our mother and father, this whole cycle until, mid-January. We're also going to see how that either assists us or causes some kind of harm within the external, the society, and how we play into authority and dealing with the system and dealing with how we're going to interact with that system. And so something that's really important about that is noticing where you go into victim mode or not worthy enough mode or all of those modes that aren't serving you, or over aggressive mode, to compensate for really the wound of the inner mother and inner father. And this is something where it's, of course, our real mothers and fathers are important, but the real work is finding that within yourself, right? And when we do that, we're not going to interact with the external society the same way, because we're going to have that worthiness. And so this is also a time where we're building that worthiness, and it's just happening. Like, it's not even that you have to effort, it's just happening. Our whole system is experiencing this catch up, kind of to where we were shown glimpses of where we're going with the Gemini Sagittarius cycle that we were in, because the nodes of the moon will be moving into Gemini and Sagittarius in May. Right now, they are in Capricorn and Cancer. They actually move backwards through the zodiac, not to confuse you, but that's going to be shifting in May. And so this last cycle, so the new moon in Sagittarius, the full moon in Gemini that we just had, this last full moon, was showing us glimpses of where we're going. And yet our nervous system was like, not ready, need to sabotage, need to create confusion, need to do all these things so that I don't, get there too fast and that doesn't freak me out. And now our bodies, our minds, our spirits are playing catch up. And so when we're in this mode of catching up to that, this is our last eclipse cycle in Cancer Capricorn. You may want to look back to when the first Cancer Capricorn eclipses happened, and especially, so that would be last January would be the time that you're looking at. So looking at last January, but also looking at last July. So this last July, July 2nd and July, I think 16th, were the last eclipses in Cancer Capricorn. Look back to those time periods. If you have the opportunity to have a journal and look back to what was happening for you, we are closing down that cycle. We are in those last eclipses. So we're not done yet. We still have work to do, but all of the work that has come up in the past, this is now the integration, the catch-up time. So I don't think there's going to be, yes, there are going to be new people coming into our lives, new situations coming into our lives, but I don't think I think the lessons are already clear and in front of us in terms of all of those things I was just talking about. But I think that we need to allow our systems to catch up. We need to not tune out, go unconscious, use ways of going unconscious. We really just need to rest. Like, we really just need to allow ourselves to rest. I found yesterday that I was lying in bed for much of the day, just looking at the pictures on my wall and just like reading a book, and like, this is just so nice to just allow my system to reset and to catch up to where I want to go. We need to allow our bodies to really integrate and our minds to integrate and know that we're safe and know that we can move forward with new connections with people from our past. We can forgive these people. We can move forward with these people if that awareness is there of your new ways of doing things, your new boundaries, your new, ways of not taking on their stuff for them, which is something that's really up, is recognizing when we take on other people's suffering for them and how to not do that anymore. And then also how we can cause other people suffering, and if we're not conscious, and how to not do that anymore. So that's really what's going on. And I just want to look at my notes really quick and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so I talked about ending old cycles, bringing the lessons in from all the grief and all the situations that we've been through, bringing in the lessons so that we can allow that to just cause us to like really excel and up level. And then releasing old ways of plugging into the societal wounds and triggering so that we can really be in our worthiness and also really help more. We can help more if we're not like being triggered left and right. And then finally, it's just like having these uncomfortable talks so that you can move forward, having these uncomfortable communications so that you can move forward. And that's really important for allowing yourself to be free. And it really, the next cycle that we're in, Gemini Sagittarius, is about freedom. And it's not freedom from others, it's freedom from our own minds, right? And so that's the cycle that we're going to be moving into. And just making sure that you're resting during this time and allowing any grief or sadness to come up. If you're an awake, aware person, there is so much grief that has been unprocessed and just, cemented over. And so if you are a sensitive being and you are awake during this time, we are being asked to process some of that grief that we kind of just suppress, but also not take on too much of it. So recognizing that the trees and the grasses and the nature spaces can also help us to process some of that grief. We don't have to do it on our own. We don't have to take on the grief of the society, because ultimately that's not going to help us move forward to a degree. We need to make sure that we're not taking on too much that it's going to really hold us back. You're going to probably notice, if you're a sensitive being, that you are naturally processing some of this grief, and that's okay. But know your stopping point. Know when you can say, okay, that's enough. That's all this vessel, this being can take for now. Okay? That's important. Have a beautiful, restful solstice time, Christmas time, Hanukkah time, Kwanzaa time, anything that you celebrate during this time, and just also a really rich end of the year where you can allow your system to rest, where you can allow your system to process, and where you can connect to those you love. I really hope you have a beautiful end of the year. Happy eclipse season. Reach out if you'd like to work with me. And also, I don't have a planetary planner in hand, but that does start at the winter solstice and can be really helpful for knowing these transits, knowing when these eclipses are happening and the full and new moons are happening. So if you don't already have your planetary planner, you can get a paper or a digital version. I'll post a link below. And I'm also starting the year-long support at this time. So if you're wanting 4 seasonal really reboots to your system, we do energy work and astrological chart reading healing at each one of the solstices and equinoxes. So we start at winter solstice and we go through the fall equinox. And so if you're wanting that extra work with me, it's such a beautiful thing to know that that's on the horizon and to know that you're getting that support year long. And then I'm also doing monthly calls. So this can either be part of that program. Well, it is part of that program if you do the year-long support. But then I'm also doing monthly calls. So if you see the monthly calls, I'll post the link below. That is just where a group of us get together and go over the astrology for that month. And that's super helpful. I'll talk about pages from the planner, and it's a way for you to really get into the mode and know what's to plan for. So that's part of the year-long support, but it also can be purchased on its own, and I'll post the link for that below as well. Have a beautiful eclipse season.